Awesome. Yeah, so like Tim said, I'm Ben. I've been here since September when we launched on the 1st. And then my family and I moved down here in October. So we moved from Chicago. We're transplants from there. Yeah, so we've been with VeoRide since then. It's been a great journey so far, especially here at this campus, which we're going to get into of just how well we've done here, the success of bike share in this community, and what some of the factors of what contributed to the success we've had so far. Just a little bit of an agenda to go through. I'm just going to give you an overview of VeoRide, kind of the impact and the growth that we've seen here at UIUC. And then I'm just going to get into a little bit of some of our electric fleet, the e-bikes that we've dropped on campus and around the city, as well as our scooters that we have, and then get into the environmental impact that bike share and electric fleets have on communities in a good way. And then I'll leave it up at the end for questions. There we go. Cool. Yeah, so just an overview of VeoRide and where we've kind of come to this point. So our founders were Purdue grads. One was majored in finance, the other one was a mechanical engineer. They both graduated from Purdue, figured that they both came from China, where the industry of, you're fine, where bike share is huge, tons and tons of bikes over in China and Japan. So they're very familiar with bike share and what it brings to communities and the benefits of it. But also they were interested in the gaps on college campuses when it comes to modes of transportation, when it comes to topography, when it comes to having a car on campus, the costs that come into play, the size of campuses and the roles of not having bike share versus having it. And so they created VeoRide. And their vision was to provide a form of mobility that allowed students and citizens to get to point A to point B as quickly as possible, but also in an affordable way and a fun way that produced health health benefits, but also encouraged continued biking after not only college, but into adulthood as they move into there. We launched in 2017. We're officially 2 years old. We had 2 years in April. We're at Purdue. We were about 4 or 6 month pilot there. Left Purdue in 2017. In the spring of 2018, we launched at Kansas University, which was our first market. We launched about 300 bikes there. And then since then, we're currently over 25 markets. I'll show you a map of where we're at now, the campuses and also the cities that we're in currently. As we continue to grow. It's a really exciting time for our company as we're looking, and hopefully we'll be on about 50 campuses by the end of the summertime, which is exciting. We're seeing a lot of growth and potential in the markets as micro-mobility, sharing is becoming more popular, and more campuses and more cities are jumping on board as seeing this as a viable mode of transportation for their citizens and for their students. So this is kind of a footprint. So this is just kind of an overview of kind of where we are at. I was trying to find something really cool so it could kind of expand as I clicked, but I couldn't find anything to do that in the PowerPoint. But this is just going to give you an overview of kind of where we're at. Obviously, we're primarily hitting kind of like the Midwestern, kind of southern regions currently, with obviously options. We're going to be expanding west into northwest regions, as well as more in California, down into Florida. We have contracts that are going to be that are pending currently. This kind of gives you kind of a snapshot of 29 markets that we're currently in, and providing our services to. So why VeoRide? So that was kind of what I got into at the beginning. So one of the issues when Candace and Edwin kind of started VeoRide was that it's trying to find as a student reliable and flexible mode of transportation to get around campus. Can you always trust the bus systems to be on time? Can you always trust the buses to not be full and packed, and having to wait for multiple buses to go by to finally get on one? Parking on campuses is always an issue. It doesn't matter what campus you're on, there's always parking issues when it comes to not only cost, but also availability. And having to bring your own bike is a big pain. So we know around here on this campus that when the spring semester ends, they collect about 500 to 600 bikes each spring that are just left over, either been abandoned or just forgotten about and haven't been ridden in a while, and the campus collects those and puts them in their warehouse. So that's an issue. How do we solve that clutter that kind of goes around campuses? And that goes for everything. We have a market at Texas A&M, and they collect about 1,500 to 2,000 bikes every semester that gets picked up. Just students that buy a cheap Walmart bike for 90 bucks, and they ride it, 3 or 4 times, and it breaks down, and to get a repair on the wheel costs more than they actually spend on the bike, and is it worth it? So we wanted to provide an affordable way for students and residents to get around, but also we want to provide an operational strategy that works. One of the big things that separates us from most of our competitors is that we are here, that I have a team that I manage. Right now I have about 7 techs who work for me. We have a van that we pick the bikes up in. We have a secure customer service line that people can call into, report issues of stray bikes, broken bikes, and then we set up our operation plan daily to go collect those, to repair those, and get them back on the street as quickly as possible. Simple to use, but whether you're an avid VeoRide rider to this point or you're not, it's a really, really simple system that we try to create. It's an app that you download on your phone. Once you upload money into the account from your debit or credit card, just like you would a Starbucks gift card. Once you do that, there's a barcode on all of our bikes and scooters. You scan that code, the lock will unlock, that's on the back tire. You ride. When you're done, we encourage people to park in bike racks, and you manually just slide the lock back into place, and that's done. Your timer ends, and you can continue to go about your day. And so we try to make it as easy as possible for people to do this. The scooters are a lot more user-friendly. You can actually lock the bikes from the app, which is another benefit of having scooters. But it's just a simple, easy design that creates the whole purpose of having an easy and flexible mode of transportation. Having an easy and flexible app allows you students and also citizens to get on the bikes, get off the bikes, leave them wherever you want, and go about your day. So VeoRide growth. So this is kind of just a snapshot of kind of what's been going on while we've been here. So again, launched here on September 1st, 500 pedal bikes. In the first 3 months, we did over 150,000 rides, which is extremely, it exceeded expectations of what we had. This is by far our biggest and most successful market. Our next largest market is sitting at a little over 80,000 rides, and that's at Texas A&M, and they have 2,500 bikes. So comparably, when it comes to rides per bikes per day, when it comes to the amount of bikes on the street, we are doing exceptionally well. And again, that was just the first 3 months of operation from September 1st through the end of November. And then, like I talked about earlier, we brought 150 e-bikes in April. We launched. I was talking to some of you earlier on, and this past month, so when the 150 e-bikes dropped, we did over 11,000 rides in April just on the electric bikes, compared to about a little over 28,000 rides we did on the pedal bikes. And that's in the comparison of what you see here. We still have, right now, currently on the street, we have 350 pedal bikes, and we have 150 e-bikes, which maintains our 500 cap level that we have in our agreement with the city and the university. We see that people are using the bikes. Obviously, this has been a benefit to the community, and it's exciting. It's exciting to be a part of something like this where it's caught on very quickly. People see the need, that it immediately filled or began to close the gap on a transportation gap that the city has. So it's exciting to be a part of those conversations of how do we continue to improve the infrastructure of the city, not only roads and bikeways, but also how do we continue to get people on bikes to be healthier and continue to grow into a healthier lifestyle, but also biking in general, which has a lot of different benefits for the user. Getting more into an impact. So to date, we have done over 210,000 rides here at the university and in Champaign-Urbana. Over 61,000 miles have been ridden. 3.4 million calories have been burned, and over 24 million grams emissions have been reduced. What we aim to do, which I said earlier, providing a service for first-time bike users. We have a lot of users who have never ridden a bike before that jumped on a VeoRide and began to ride, which I see that as a benefit. Over time, when you talk about proper parking of bikes or getting along with avid bike riders like some of yourselves who ride bikes daily, who know the laws and things like that, we want bike share to be a part of the educational process of getting people on bikes and seeing the benefit of it long term, and that we can see a partnership grow. We know that overnight, someone who's never ridden a bike before isn't gonna hop on the next day and get on it and know all the laws, know which way to ride on the street and things like that. But our goal is VeoRide is to partner with the cities, partner with local bike clubs like Champaign County Bikes to promote proper bike education and to continue to teach our users through emails, through user engagement, through tabling events, to continue to train our users to how to ride bikes properly and how to navigate relationships with pedestrians and with cars. we've seen a huge ride, which after this slide we're going to see a heat map of just different riding paths and also just in general where the bikes have kind of gone a little bit. But I mean, if you go to County Market at any time on 4th Street, there's a VeoRide bike there. People are using them to go get groceries. There's bikes out now at Walmart-Urbana. They go down to Savoy. They go up to Marketplace. There's 2 at Target right now at Marketplace. So people use them to go to grocery stores to purchase things, which is really exciting for us that we're seeing not only students use them, but also citizens to go do their normal daily tasks and also put money back into the economy. This doesn't cost Champaign-Urbana or the campus anything, and we're really providing a full transit system for the community that's operating to no cost to the taxpayer here, which we find to be a complete benefit to the community and not a hassle or a nuisance. And more people on bikes will long-term lead to less cars. That's ultimately another goal of ours as a company, is that we want to reduce CO2 emissions, and we want to reduce cars on the road. That's our one of our long-term goals is to be a partner in that in local communities. So a riding path map. So this is kind of what it kind of looks like from a big picture. This is like all of our data from September 1st into 1. I'm going to show a zoomed out version after this, but I just want to kind of give you an idea of where we see our ridership. Obviously, you're going to see a lot of ridership on campus and campus limits between kind of the 4 major roads that kind of lock campus in. But we do, like I said, we see bikes down here in Savoy. We actually had a bike 2 weeks ago. Someone rode it to the airport, which is a great thing. It's a long ride, and it was a pedal bike, so they didn't take an e-bike, which is, that's their choice. It's great, but it just shows that there's a transportation gap. Would you rather pay $9 or $10 to take an Uber down to the airport, or would you rather spend 50 cents to take a 15-minute VeoRide ride down to the airport and get on your plane? So it's kind of like what's that? Where do you want to go? What route do you want to take? But again, we picked up bikes in the Orchard in the fall. People rode all the way out here to Duncan and close to the highway. We've seen obviously people ride past the highway over here to Lincolnshire Fields. Like I said, up north, Marketplace, East Urbana. Some people have ridden a decent amount through the Kickapoo Rail Trail in the fall when we first launched, which was exciting. So we see kind of a lot of ridership going along in the city. Which we hope continues to solidify a true partnership, not only with the campus, because that's where our primary ridership is going to be, that just is what it is, but also with local citizens who do ride bikes, because our goal is to get as many people on bikes as possible. That's what we want. And we've seen this as data showing that, there's people that are riding the bikes that don't go to school here, which is exciting. This is kind of a zoomed in version, just kind of shows you some more of just kind of like riding past streets that are covered. Obviously, if I zoomed in, it would just be kind of like a waffle kind of lines crossing all the time. Obviously, this is a grid system here in the city, but it's just really exciting, I think, to see kind of how many people are riding, but also the routes they're taking in between campuses. And we break out the data. We can see, if people are choosing to go on major roads like Windsor, or if they're taking the university, or if they're trying to cut through campus and get to the other side, which I usually do because I don't like to ride on Windsor, but that's just me personally. I don't know if anybody likes to ride on Windsor, but that's just something that we look forward to when we're deploying bikes or rebalancing bikes. What routes are people taking, and how are they going to get to point A to point B most effectively? So this is kind of an overview of just our electric fleet and the enhancements or just overall capabilities that they can do. Our e-bikes, they top out at 18 miles per hour. They're not motorized, they're pedal assist. So there's a torque sensor in the middle motor of the bike. So as you're pedaling, that's what's propelling you forward. That's what's giving you the charge in the battery to propel you forward. But they can go up to 18 miles per hour. It's a 3-gear bike. Designed for hilly, longer distances. It's a 68-mile maximum electric distance, which is great. We find it helps us as we're managing those and continuing to operate them and keep them in tip-top shape. Interchangeable battery, that's kind of what separates us. We're one of 2 companies currently that have e-bikes that have swappable batteries in them, which allows us a lot more freedom when it comes to just upkeep of the bikes in general. Bikes that are getting close to dying or the battery's low, we just bring a new fully charged battery, take the key, open it up, pop off the battery, put a new one in, take the other battery back to our warehouse, charge it up, it's good to go. Indoor charging station installation, so that gets into more of a why not dock systems? Why don't we have dock systems here? Why is it dockless? Why can the bikes be left everywhere? And that's why I heard a lot in the beginning. And I always tell people, Champaign and Urbana and also campus, they've been trying to get bike share here for about 10 years. It's been a really long process, a lot of different trial and errors, what works, what doesn't. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars to install one docking station that holds about 10 bikes. It's not underground work of running electric into that docking station. So there's a lot of money that would then be funneled through taxpayer dollars to get actual docking system, compared to like a divvy system where that's funded through taxpayer dollars. So there's more of a there's more funding coming from Chicago, but that's why you don't see a lot of docking systems in most campus or small local communities like this, because the price tag is extremely high for a very small quantity of bikes. But one of the benefits of that is that there's nothing clogging up sidewalks. We're not coming and demanding space for to be put on sidewalks and removing pedestrian walkways or other parking areas or bike racks. Because our bikes are dockless, it creates just a bike going into a bike rack, but there's nothing else. And then our scooters. So right now our scooters can top up at 15 miles per hour, which most of our competitors can go 18. So we knocked it down 3 miles per hour just for more safety. Larger wheels, which I'll show after this, and a platform which allows more stability and also a better ride. Larger battery capacity. These have a max battery capacity of about 40 miles fully charged. Same thing. We're the only ones out right now with a swappable battery in our scooters, compared to Bird, Lime, Ofo, Bolt, all the big players right now that are out in the scooter market: Indianapolis, Austin, Seattle, LA. We're the only ones who have a swappable battery. That creates not only a benefit of safety. If you take Bird, for example, they allow their users to collect low battery or dead scooters at the end of each day. And they can collect them, put them in their truck or van or however they're going to collect them, take them back to their house or wherever they're going to charge them, put them on a bunch of chargers, and then when they're done, they can put them back on the street, and they pay them about $3 to $5 to $10, depending on how low that swappable battery is. That's created fires. There have been fires that have started in apartments and dorm rooms because students and citizens have tried to charge 10 or 20, and that creates a blowout. And so there's a safety concern with our competitors in charging, because the scooters that they're using are ones you can buy off Amazon, and so they're buying them in bulk, sending them out, putting their own software in it, and it creates those type of issues where now we don't have to do that. We're in control as the company when it comes to the same thing as the e-bikes. We can bring new batteries that are charged. We're the ones who charge them. We're the ones who are seeing and being in control of everything that happens with the battery component. We have no ride zones, so we have a geo-zone in our app. So if you ride outside the geo-zone and try to lock our bikes, your timer keeps going. So we have set zones that you can only ride the bikes in. Same thing with our scooters, except for if you ride our scooter into a no ride zone, it completely shuts off the power, which is a safety feature and allows theft and vandalism, but also it allows us to really have a control on where our users go, and a partnership with the city is where they want the scooters to go and where they don't want to go. And then we have a pedestrian mode, which is I think a real benefit, especially in college towns, to be able to press a button and to deactivate a motor into a slower mode. It goes 8 miles per hour. So an example would be going through quad and class change. Hit that button, now it slows you down to 8 miles per hour to governor, cruise through, pop out on the other side on the plaza, or come on Green Street in the bike lane, hit it off, you go back to 15 miles per hour, you can kind of cruise. So just some of the benefits we think that our scooter has. Just a quick little picture. We have 10-inch wheels. Most of our competitors, like Lime, Bird, they're at 7. You can just obviously see the difference in size, and obviously the width of the tires. And then our platforms are obviously wider than most of our competitors, which just creates a smoother and easier ride. Environmental impact. So these are some of the things that we feel like we're really leading the way on, especially in markets like these where we're seeing over 200,000 rides in a 7-month period. We're rescuing emissions. So we talk about the swappable batteries for the e-bikes or the scooters. It just goes right to that example. It takes us one trip to go, take about a load of 20 batteries, swap out 20 batteries, take them back and charge them, and they're good to go. So that's one load in a van. You're driving and going to collect those out, or hooking up a trailer to one of our e-bikes and driving it out. So then there's no emissions that we're causing because we're not putting it in a van. Compared to our competitors where they have to have their users go collect the scooters, bring them back to their house, and then go back and deploy them. So there's another trip added to their operational plan. So we see that as a benefit to us, that we're leading the way in that. Eliminate fire risk, like I already talked about. Crowd charging, fire can start. They're kind of leaving it up to the users to dictate what scooters are out and what they're not. No docking or charging stations, removes unnecessary structures and added construction that would happen if you put docking systems in or charging stations like some of our competitors do. And the ultimate goal is to decrease cars on the road, which reduces CO2 emissions. Like I said earlier, that's one of our goals, is to reduce cars on the road and provide a mode of transportation that's safe, fun, but also good for the earth and good for the person. Benefits. What's the benefit? Why micromobility? What's the benefit of having pedal bikes, e-bikes, scooters, different modes of transportation? It allows you to kind of travel across the area without using a car. That's the biggest thing. It allows another mode of transportation for people to use. Reduces use of carbon dioxide, less time spent waiting for public trans or searching for parking, like I touched on earlier. There's no sitting at bus stops waiting 10, 15, 20 minutes. There's no driving around parking lots on campus trying to find a parking spot. If you don't have a parking pass, trying to find a meter in a ticketed lot. Low cost ownership. It's just either a membership that the user purchases, or it's by trip that they're going and riding these bikes. So they're spending 50 cents on one ride, and that's it. There's no maintenance involved. There's no worrying about theft or where did I leave my bike at, on campus or around the city. It's all just a very free-flowing market-based idea that allows for the users to be in, out, quick as possible. We're the ones who take responsibility for finding those bikes or upkeep of the bike. We want to inspire a healthier lifestyle. We want to get more people on bikes. We think there's a benefit not only physically, but also mentally when you ride bikes, which is exciting to see that we've had so many people get on bikes. And we want to, micromobility, why? To be a progressive culture. We want to see UIUC be a leader in that, to be stepping forward and being a leader in micromobility when it comes to, obviously, stepping up and doing e-bikes was a huge move for them, allowing us to bring them here, show confidence in not only our operation plan, but also our partnership, and that we have a good product on the street that people want to use, that's going to last, and it's going to be durable, and that people enjoy and want to ride it. We want to be a part of things like MCOR and things that are really improving roadways, improving bike lanes, and we want to be a true partner. My family and I live here. We moved here from Chicago. We've built some really good, strong community here through just really good friendships, and we want to be here a long time. I want to be here a long time. I don't want to just be here for 2 years and then leave. So that's what we want to provide, is a system that not only benefits us as a business, but also benefits the community members and also the campus. And then, like I said earlier, we're providing a free transit system. It's a fully free transit system that the city doesn't upkeep, that there's no cost to the city to have them. It's really us, and we see that as a benefit to local communities coming in and decreasing that transportation gap that we see in a lot of communities, and providing just a really solid service. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, so we go like today. One's on a balcony on Chalmers and First. There's an apartment complex. Someone's had it on the balcony for about a week, and I've given them time to kind of see if they would take it down and like write it, but they haven't. So I call the manager, and they're contacting them, getting them to take it down because we can't get inside because it's a locked building. So there's things like that. We'll message users through text or email and try to get them to hey, come on, just help us. Just give us the bike back. It's a shared market, but. So question. So why did VeoRide leave Purdue? It's good questions. So we left Purdue because Purdue went with another company. They went with Zaxter, I'm pretty sure. So we piloted out through them, and when we finished up, they decided to go through just a different company. Does 24 million grams of emission reduced include the emissions pollution of replacing bikes, shipping bikes in landfills? Yes, it does. It includes what you asked. The shipping of bikes into landfills and things like that. So we do include that when we talk about replacing bikes and parts and things like that, scrapping bikes. That's all included in our numbers. So. I think from what I know, it was more or less that there was more stability because they had been around longer than we had. So we literally just piloted it out. So I think there was probably like 100 or 200 bikes that we had out. And so, as a startup, you're always trying to fix things and grow and improve and trial and error a lot of things. And I'm pretty sure it was Zaxter, whoever was there had been there they've been around for a little bit longer. So I think there was just more of like a trust factor. And, again, a lot of universities are kind of now because there's so many competitors, there's so many vendors out with e-bikes and scooters and things like that. Now it's a lot of reference checks. So a lot of our new markets that we're approaching, we'll be calling to our local Midwestern markets that we already established and talking with their reps. Hey, how is VeoRide performing? Is VeoRide meeting expectations? Are they fulfilling their contract obligations? Things like that. So now, because everyone's kind of grabbing land, so to say, like this really is a big land grab right now when it comes to competition. How do we get the most markets now, because we know in a couple of years like this industry is going to look a little bit different when it comes to what's actually on the street. Is it just going to be fully electric models that are on the street, e-bike, scooters, that's it, plus anything else, trikes, e-bike trikes, things like that. So that does play a role, and I think universities are catching on to that, and so a lot more vetting is going on than a year ago when it came to allowing different vendors to come on campus. There was more or less like, we just want to get it here, let's get it here. And now we've seen a lot of stories, a lot of horror stories of bike share and things going poorly, not from us necessarily, but from other competitors. And so how campuses are kind of putting their foot on the brake a little bit and kind of taking their time a little bit more when they're talking to multiple vendors. Yeah. We tend to have a 5 to 7 day idle limit based on our bikes. So we'll kind of see, we allow bikes to sit out. Depending on if bikes get too far out, then we try to rebalance those first, because we know that if they go out to Urbana Walmart, that's going to be a one-way trip. That's not going to be a return trip, because we go get groceries, they're not going to be able to carry all those groceries back. They're going to get on a bus or Uber or whatever. The next mode of transportation they're going to hop on, they're going to do it. So those bikes get priority because we know we want to get them back in the market. We want to get them so they can get rides. We do have a 5 to 7 day idle time that we do say, okay, we'll do a map, and then we'll start planning to go collect those bikes and grab them up. We do, though, allow for longer rides for data purposes collecting, because as we're still growing in the market and still relatively new when it comes to bike share, and we're still gaining usership every week, sometimes we're just trying to feel out where hot areas are, where they're not. If a bike sits for 2 weeks, will it be ridden back? And so we do have a lucky bike system that we do implement here and there, where we'll tag certain bikes on the map as lucky bikes, and they'll have a certain indicator on them. And so if you ride that bike back into certain zones in centralized, either downtown Urbana, Champaign, or campus, you'll get like 2 free rides. And so we try to incentivize people to do it that way. But we do data collect because we're trying to figure out, obviously where are the hot spots, where people actually need the bikes that are not necessarily on campus. If someone rides it to Hessel Park, are they going to ride it back? If it's near Jarlings, then on a hot night, maybe somebody will ride it back because they're going to get ice cream. Maybe they, but most of the day either you're going to drive there or they already rode the VeoRide bike there. So if that one bike goes to Hessel Park, is someone just going to be at the park one day and go, I want to ride that bike back or not? We're trying to figure that out, and so we're trying to see. So, and then obviously, like sometimes people do leave the bikes and they put them down on the ground, and that's how they park them. Sometimes it's wind, and their e-bikes have a different kickstand. They have just a single kickstand that drops down, which has prevented a lot more of that. So as we're growing, we're trying to look at new designs and improve our bikes to make sure that we're the Midwestern region, which is a pretty windy region. So how do we prepare for that in our bikes to aesthetically not displease citizens, because that is a cause of concern that we want to put to bed. I don't encourage people to do that, but I do tell people that if obviously we want to look for bike racks, and we want to look for places outside of blocking pedestrians or anyone in a wheelchair, things like that, stairs, ramps, things like that would put people going on. So any of those type of situations, especially on campus, because that's where the majority of those type of issues do pop up, where you're blocking stairs or blocking ramps. Like we have guys who go around and that's a priority of ours. When it gets out, we just tell people, hey, if you're going to be on the sidewalk, like if there's nowhere else to put it as far over on the sidewalk as possible. Like when you block a whole sidewalk like that, obviously making us look bad as a company. So we don't ever encourage people to just put the bikes into the sidewalks and leave them, because that's not proper parking. That gets into our messaging and our fee system. So if we do get like a message of a bike blocking away like that, and somebody were to call us and say, hey, there's a bike north in Champaign and it's in the sidewalk, can someone come grab it? Like in our contract, we have 3 hours to go grab it once a call is made to us and comes through our port system. And so what we'll do is we know who rode that last bike and that left it there. Based on the number, we can track their phone number. So we'll message them. We usually give like a one-time forgiveness. But then we track that and it goes in our system. So again, if that happens again, it comes up and it pops up again, say, oh, that person's done it twice now, we charge a $15 fee and say, you parked illegally, So it's just that's something that we do implement around campus and some of our users because we don't want that behavior to continue. We want to teach people how to properly bike the bike. Even though they are dockless, we don't want a bunch of bikes laying everywhere on the sidewalks, and because we want to be a partner, we don't want to be a nuisance. So it's just on the app. So if you download the app on your phone, and then when you open that screen, it'll show you the map of where all the bikes are at and they're located. So it'll give you a very centralized based on your location. It'll show you any bikes that are in your immediate area, and then if you pull out on the map, you'll be able to see where all the bikes are out within Champaign-Urbana. Now I'll show you the difference between a pedal bike just has a picture of a bike on it compared to an electric bike will have a lightning bolt. And so that's how you know the difference. So, because the electric bikes cost $1 to unlock and they're 15 cents per minute versus our normal pedal bikes, which are 50 cents for 15 minutes. So it does play a factor with some of our users that are pulling up and saying, oh, there's an e-bike, but I really don't want to spend $2 today on riding a bike. So maybe they'll try to find a different bike somewhere else. We not only at events that we do tabling, but it's also in our app that we encourage people to use. If you go through the protocol, the tutorial of how to use VeoRide, there's a message in there we recommend using helmets or to obey local city and state laws regarding helmets. We know that it's not something that most people or most of our users are going to do, but we do encourage that long-term vision is that if people are going to use the bikes, that we see an increase in our users preparing to use our bikes by bringing a helmet with them. And we don't, I don't know what that's going to look like, but our hope is that long term, if someone's like, well, I'm using VeoRides every day, I should probably invest in a helmet, especially as we're talking about electric fleets, possibly bringing scooters here at some point one day. That's a cause of concern. Do we make people wear helmets to ride the scooters? That's something we could do, but that's something that we would have to talk with local officials about. The CDC is should be tomorrow, actually a report on scooters in general. So that actually is going to fill in some gaps, I think, for all of us in general. Some of the things that we have seen come out of that already from the report that's going to be at launch tomorrow is, like you said, so when it comes to a lot of our competitors, operational strategy has been dump bikes or dump scooters without license or without representation on the ground, and then kind of apologize later. Obviously, from an operational standpoint, we don't go that route. We're always through the front door, so that's one way that we do try to be a true partner when it comes to when it comes to these scooters specifically, what they actually can do compared to our competitors, but also operationally what we do on the ground compared to our competitors. We're obviously you will never see 500 of these scooters on the ground unless you hear about it through the News Gazette and there's a city council meeting and they approved it. So that won't ever happen here until that gets approved. But when it comes to the safety concerns, I think, like I mentioned, some of the characteristics of our scooter, but also when it comes to user guide, we have a lot of capabilities when it comes to technology of really gridlocking these, not removing the importance of having another mode of transportation on the ground, because we do have a lot of people who will not ride bikes, but they will jump on a scooter, and it will be a form of mode of transportation that does benefit them. And we see that as these are another part of the puzzle of decreasing overall transportation gaps in local communities. When it comes to one of the capabilities we do preach is that we can put time limits on these. So it's something where it's we could put that any of our scooters that go out shut down at midnight or shut down at 11 p.m. and can't be ridden again until 7 a.m. And so that's one of the benefits and technological advances that we have compared to most of our competitors who are unwilling to do that or don't have the technology updated because most of their scooters aren't in-house made like ours are. Which for us, that's a big selling point to us, especially in college towns where you see a lot of opportunities for possible injuries at nighttime. We remove that immediately by locking them down, and then nobody can rent them. When it comes to riding on the sidewalks and on the streets, currently, to my knowledge, there's no laws that state that they have to be on the sidewalks or streets. They're basically treated as bikes currently. Chicago is introducing a pilot of scooters this summer. So multiple vendors will be dropping scooters in downtown Chicago, and from what I understand and what I believe is that we're going to get a lot of new laws that come from that. We're going to have a lot of information and data that come from June through however long they're going to do the pilot, probably through November. that they're going to gain a lot of data, and Illinois is then going to really take seriously like what laws they want to introduce when it comes to these electric scooters. So those are going to Indiana State. So those are going to another market. Yeah. So those are all those are. So we do scrap. So when it comes to things that are either like vandalism that have too far gone, that's just not, it's not safe to put out. There's a crack in the wheel rim or something like that. It's just, you know, we don't have a spare tire. It's like, well, you know, so those bikes do get scrapped. But majority of our bikes just get sent to other markets. Like as we're moving to more electric, we're going to be bringing more electric bikes in the fall. Those pedal bikes will be transitioned to new other markets that we're either launching or who are requesting just pedal bikes in the street. They'll continue to be used. They have about we're about 2 years old. The bikes here have seen obviously a lot of rides on them. They've been ridden a lot, which is great. They probably have about a 2-year lifespan on them when it comes to just overall safety of the bike before we put it out. So we don't put anything out obviously that would be unsafe to a user or would cause an injury. But we do rely heavily on the error report system that we have in the app for users to report a basket that's broken or a tire that's bent or things like that, because it helps us just manage our day-to-day fleet. Infrastructure and bike lanes, specifically in campus. It's one of the best overall bike-friendly cities and campus spaces that we have in any of our markets. Topography, I mean, this is just one of the. It's just made for bike share because of the topography. And also just the overall acceptability of bikes. I think there's obviously, you want change, you want more people to be on bikes and more motorists to behave properly in a partnership. But compared to most of our markets, this is one of the better ones when it comes to overall city acceptance of bikers and promotion. It helps us a lot to be in this type of market compared to some of our other markets who are very they're just not built. The infrastructure isn't built for biking. Which makes it hard for us and our users. So next for VeoRide, scooters. We launched scooters in Austin and in Knoxville this past 2 weeks, so that's growing. But I think overall, I mean, we're looking to continue to improve our models. The pedal bikes that we have on the street, we actually have all the first 3 generations of the company here. But we're actually on generations. We have 1, 2, and 3 here. We are actually on generation 5 when it comes to our pedal bikes. So, which is exciting because we're improving. We're always constantly looking for different improvements of the bikes, how they ride. In the e-bikes, we're going to be, it's obviously generation 3 of the e-bikes that we have here, and generation 4 have already been made. And so there's more improvements when it comes to the kickstand, when it comes to where the light placement is, when it comes to the basket design, when it comes to overall shape of the bike. Like there's always ways that we're looking to improve, looking to go from a 3-speed e-bike to a single-speed e-bike, because operationally, like that makes more sense for us because it's more efficient to do just a single speed because now we don't have to worry about the gears. Just maintenance-wise is a lot easier. So that's something that will be coming in version 5 or 6 down the road for us, is improving to a single-speed e-bike. Which is going to make us more competitive in any space and provide just an easier ride for most of our users. Because nobody rides an e-bike in first gear because you're just spinning because that doesn't make sense. Everybody rides in 2 or 3, and most people ride in 3 because that's once you get going, 2 is irrelevant as well. So yeah.